Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We are here for our first read aloud of the week, and we are continuing on with our Gail Gibbons stories this week. Remember, our stories are all by Gail Gibbons, and she's the author as well as the illustrator. And as we are listening to these stories, both last week and this week, we are thinking about why she wrote these texts. We know that they are nonfiction. So we are trying to figure out if she wrote them to persuade us, which means to make us believe something, to inform us, which means to give us information, or to entertain us, which means to make us laugh. So last week, we read two different books. We read the Moon book, and we also read about giant pandas. So this week, today's story, we're going to learn some more about penguins. Now, I know that we have read a story about penguins before, so you should already have some information and some knowledge about penguins from that first story that we read about them. So today's story you might hear some information that you already know about penguins, and you might hear some similar information from our last penguin story, but you're also going to learn some new information today. So as I'm reading, remember if you see the little post-it notes, that means to stop or pause the video and take some think time to really think about those questions and think about why Gail Gibbons wrote and illustrated this text for us. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Penguins. Here come the penguins, straight and tall. They walk with a waddle, yet look stately and dignified. Back it up here. We've got lots of information. There are 17 different kinds of penguins. The smallest is the little blue penguin. It is about 1 foot or 30 centimeters tall. The biggest of all the penguins is the emperor penguin, standing almost 4 feet tall or 120 centimeters. All penguins have black or bluish-gray backs and white bellies. The patterns around their necks and heads are what make them look different. Some have colorful patches. Others show off brightly colored crests, but they all have the same basic body shape and characteristics. All right, so we have all of these different kinds of penguins. So we have the little blue penguin. Okay, it's also called the fairy penguin. That's the littlest. And then we have the emperor penguin, which is the biggest. Then we have all of these other different types that we're going to learn about. So let's look at all of the penguins. What is the same about all of the penguins? But then there's also some differences. So I want you to think about two things. I want you to think about, one, what is similar about all of the penguins? And two, what are the differences? What are some special features that some of the penguins have that others do not? All penguins are found in the southern hemisphere. The Adélie and emperor penguins never leave Antarctica. Others live in New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, South America, and the Galapagos and many other islands. So here we see a diagram of the North Pole, the South Pole, and the Southern Hemisphere. Okay, so let's look at our post-it note. The Southern Hemisphere. What does this page show about the Southern Hemisphere? And what questions do you have about the Southern Hemisphere? Then we move over to this page, and this page shows us the globe and where all of the different penguin types live. Okay, so where all those dots, let me see if I can scoot it down for you guys to see it closely. So all of those different dots show where these different types of penguins live all over the globe. Penguins are birds, but they lost their ability to fly millions of years ago. Over time, they began to spend a lot of time hunting for food in frigid waters. Their wings changed into powerful, rigid flippers for swimming. Penguins have sleek, smooth bodies that glide easily through the water. They are excellent swimmers and divers. Larger ones can swim faster than 25 miles an hour or 40 kilometers. The emperor penguin can dive deeper than any other bird, about 1,500 feet or 450 meters. Let's look at our question here. How did Gail Gibbons draw the penguins to look like they're swimming or standing on the ice? So how did she illustrate so that it looks like they're swimming or it looks like they're standing? Groups of penguins may stay at sea for weeks at a time. They leap in a graceful arcs through the water to grab breaths of air. Penguins feed underwater on krill, fish, and other sea creatures. Their natural enemies are fur and leopard seals, sea lions, sharks, and killer whales. Here it shows you what krill is. Krill is a small shrimp-like creature. So that's krill. That's the main thing that they feed on. When the penguins want to leave the water, they can leap up as much as 6 feet or 1.8 meters onto a rocky shore or iceberg. They climb rocks easily, hopping from one to the other. Sometimes penguins speed over snow and ice by dropping onto their bellies and sliding. All right, so it says, what have you learned from Gail Gibbons about penguins that you did not already know? What are some things that you have learned so far, just at the beginning of this book, that you didn't already know about penguins? A penguin's many feathers are small and stiff. They form a warm and waterproof covering. In really cold places, penguins have an extra layer of long, downy feathers underneath. They also have thick layers of fat to keep them warm. Once a year, many penguins come together to form colonies called rookeries. It is time for the penguins to mate and raise their young. At this time, they make loud croaking and trumpeting sounds, but most of the time, penguins are quiet. What a noisy place a rookery is with all the harsh penguin calls. There can be hundreds, sometimes thousands, of penguins in a rookery. They have no trouble finding their mates. So here it says male and female, and you see they're calling out to each other to find their mate. While courting, they chase each other. Sometimes they hold their wings away from their bodies and hold their beaks up high. Usually the same pair mates and raises its young together. So here we have pairs. We have pairs over here. It is time to build their nests. Some penguins make their nests in burrows or rocky crevices. Others build nests in the open using sticks and grasses. Some arrange small stones in a circle. The two biggest penguins, the emperor penguin and the king penguin, don't build nests. So here we have the Adelaide penguin building a nest. Then we have the king penguin and the emperor penguin who do not build nests. So there are different kinds of nests. What is the most important thing about the nest? Soon after the nest is built, it is egg-laying time. Most penguins usually lay 2 eggs. While one parent keeps the eggs warm, incubating them, the other one searches for food. Incubation can last 30 to 60 days, depending on the kind of penguin. The penguins fiercely guard the eggs and their nesting territory. So here's another post-it. When the eggs are kept warm, that is called incubation. What happens while the parent keeps the egg warm? So what is happening as the parents are keeping the eggs warm? What's happening there? King penguins and emperor penguins lay only 1 egg. The female quickly passes her egg over to the male. He carries the egg on top of his feet. The egg is kept warm by a flap on his belly called the brood pouch. He carefully waddles around short distances without dropping the egg. During incubation time, the female swims out to sea to feed. So we've got emperor penguins, we've got the egg here, and the brood pouch is right there. That's what keeps it warm. So what are you thinking about the king penguins and the emperor penguins? So the emperor penguins and the king penguins are much different than the other kinds of penguins. The male emperor penguins gather together in the cold, dark, polar winter. The temperature can get as low as negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 51 degrees Celsius. They protect themselves by huddling close together, constantly moving from the inside to the outside of the group and back to the inside to stay warm. During this time, they don't eat. They fast, living off stored body fat, and can lose up to 45% of their body weight. So why do you think they don't eat during this time? After about 65 days, the egg hatches. The female returns around this time. It is her turn to care for the chick. She tucks it under her brood pouch to keep it warm. Then the male emperor penguin is free to swim out to sea to feed. So here's the little baby chick, and the mom and the dad switch places. The chick weighs about 11 ounces or 308 grams and is covered in gray, soft down. The mother has food in her belly. When the chick is hungry, the mother throws up or regurgitates a meal for it. So that big word, regurgitates, is just the mother throwing up the food into the baby's mouth. When the father returns, both parents take turns feeding and keeping the chick warm. The chick grows. When it's about 8 weeks old, it weighs around 4 pounds or 1.8 kilograms. Now the chick is too big to stay under its parents' brood pouches. So here's the chick, and it's too big now to keep warm under their pouches. The chicks begin to gather into groups called creches. They huddle together to stay warm. When the sun shines, they scurry around, getting stronger and practicing their balance. So this would be a creche, a group of chicks. When a parent returns, it calls with a cry only its chick knows. The chick rushes to its parent. Mealtime. The chick is fed one huge meal every few days. It takes time for the parents to make each trip out to sea for food. So here they're feeding the chick. All penguins are raised in similar ways. When the chicks are 3 to 10 months old, they begin to lose their gray down and grow adult feathers. Now they are called fledglings. So they move from chick to now fledglings, and that's when they're losing their gray down and they're starting to get their feathers, their adult feathers. Off they go to live on their own. They learn to hunt and survive without the help of their parents. In about 4 years, they will return to raise their own young. At one time, the number of penguins was declining. Eggs were harvested and penguins were hunted for their skins. Their fat was boiled down to make oil. So think about what you just heard. What could the word declining mean? It says at one time the number of penguins was declining. What do you think that word means, decline? Today, penguins are in danger. Sometimes oil spills coat their feathers. Overfishing reduces their food supply. They get tangled in fishing nets. Tourists can do harm to colonies of penguins by disturbing them. So all those different ways are reasons that the population of penguins is declining. Now there are laws to help protect them. People work together to help penguins survive in our modern world. Some areas have been named penguin sanctuaries. So what that means is that you cannot disturb that area because that's where the penguins are living. Penguins can be found in zoos and aquariums. People working there care for the penguins in a clean, safe environment. So if you've ever been to the zoo, you might have seen some penguins, or an aquarium, you might have seen some penguins. So that environment is safe for those penguins because they can't be hunted. It is fun to watch penguins play. The penguin exhibit is one of my favorites at the zoo and the aquarium. And that is it. These are just some other facts about penguins. So it says penguins. The first penguins lived about 40 million years ago. Prehistoric penguins stood about 6 feet or 180 centimeters tall. The largest penguin is the emperor. It can weigh about 90 pounds or 40 kilograms. King penguins can live to be 20 years old, which doesn't seem like a long time, but in penguin years, that is a long time. The smallest penguin is the little blue or fairy penguin. It weighs about 3 pounds or 1.3 kilograms. There are 17 kinds of penguins. The 5 not illustrated earlier in the book are the erect crested penguin, the royal penguin, the Fjordland penguin, the snares crested penguin, and the Peruvian penguin. So we have the Fjordland penguin, the snares crested penguin, the erect crested penguin, the Peruvian penguin, and the royal penguin. So those are all different kinds. There are 17 different kinds of penguins. And that is the end. All right, so now I'm going to ask you to think for a second about why Gail Gibbons wrote this text. Did she try to persuade us to make us believe something? Was she trying to inform us or give us information about something? Or was she trying to entertain us or make us laugh? Which one of those was she trying to do? Now we're going to move on over to our writing assignment today. So you should see day 2 at the top. You will have penguin also at the top. So you're going to choose one of the 17 kinds of penguins. Okay, you might need to go back to the story to hear again the different names of the penguins. So you're going to choose one kind of penguin. You're going to write the name of that penguin in this circle, and you're also going to write the name of that penguin up here on the line. Then you are going to fill in the different boxes. So you're going to tell me what that penguin looks like, and do not just tell me it's black and white. Okay, give me a very detailed description of what that penguin looks like. You're going to tell me what that penguin eats. You're going to tell me what that penguin's enemies are. And then you're going to tell me a cool fact about that penguin. You can choose any fact that you learned about that penguin, as long as it's not what it looks like, what it eats, or its enemies. All right? If you want to do more than one cool fact, that's fine. Challenge yourself. Also, if you want to draw a picture of the kind of penguin that you chose on the back and color it, you may do that as well. All right, so like I said, you might need to go back and listen in to specific parts of the story just so that you can hear the names of the penguins again and maybe some specific facts about them. That's okay. Okay, you have that to do. And again, you don't have to write incomplete sentences. You're just kind of going to do little bullet points, little dots. Okay, and for the cool fact, at least one. But if you want to do more than one, that's fine. Make sure the name of your penguin is in the circle as well as on that top line. Okay? Good luck, and I will see you guys on day 4 for another Gail Gibbons story. See you guys then.